Imagine plugging in a cable and instantly connecting to the entire world. It's something we do without thinking, behind a desk, under a router, along a wall. But that simple wire? It's part of a system that has taken decades to build. And it all starts with a question most people never stop to ask. What's the difference between an Ethernet cable and a network cable? At first glance, they seem identical. In fact, most people use the terms interchangeably, in stores, online, even in tech conversations. But beneath those everyday words, there's a subtle distinction that reveals a much bigger story about how our digital world actually works. Let's start with the broader term, network cable. Think of it as the umbrella category. A network cable is any cable that allows devices to communicate. That could mean connecting your laptop to a router, linking computers in an office, or running massive connections between servers inside data centers. The definition is simple. If it carries data between devices, it's a network cable. Now, this is where things get more specific. An Ethernet cable is a type of network cable, but not all network cables are Ethernet. Ethernet isn't just a cable, it's a technology standard. It defines how data is formatted, transmitted, and received across a wired network. So when you hear Ethernet cable, what you're really talking about is a cable designed specifically to meet those standards. It's a small difference, but an important one. Like the difference between saying vehicle and car. Ethernet's story begins in the 1970s, inside a research lab called Xerox PARC. That's where engineers developed a standardized way for computers to communicate over a shared network. At the time, this was revolutionary. Before Ethernet, there was no universal system, just isolated machines. But Ethernet changed everything. Over time, it became faster, more reliable, and eventually the global standard for wired networking. But the cables themselves didn't always look the way they do today. Early Ethernet relied on thick, heavy coaxial cables, bulky, rigid, and difficult to install. As technology advanced, these were replaced by twisted pair cables, lighter, cheaper, and far easier to work with. These are the cables most people use today. You've probably seen labels like Cat5e, Cat6, or Cat7. These categories define performance, with newer versions offering higher speeds and better reliability. So why don't we just call everything Ethernet? Because Ethernet is only one piece of the bigger picture. There are other types of network cables designed for different technologies. Take fiber optic cables, for example. Instead of electricity, they use light to transmit data, allowing information to travel incredibly fast over long distances with almost no signal loss. That's why they power the backbone of the internet. Then there's coaxial cable. Once used for early Ethernet systems, it's now more commonly associated with television and certain internet connections. Even so, it still qualifies as a network cable because it carries data between devices. So why does the confusion exist? The answer is simple: dominance and familiarity. Ethernet is so widely used in homes and offices that people often treat it as the default, as if it is the network itself. On top of that, stores and online listings almost always use the term Ethernet cable instead of more technical names like twisted pair network cable. It's easier, more familiar, and over time that simplicity blurs the distinction. But technically speaking, Ethernet cables have a unique design. Inside, they contain twisted copper wire pairs. These twists aren't random. They're engineered to cancel out electromagnetic interference. In a world filled with wireless signals, power lines, and electronics, this design keeps data transmissions clean and stable. Higher category cables even include extra shielding to further protect the signal. And that reliability is a big reason why Ethernet has remained dominant for decades. Of course, Ethernet hasn't stood still. In its early days, speeds were measured in megabits per second. Today, gigabit Ethernet is standard, with even faster systems like 10 gigabit networks becoming more common in high-performance environments. At the same time, the broader world of network cables continues to evolve. Fiber optics are pushing the limits of speed and distance. New materials are improving durability, and hybrid systems are combining multiple technologies for maximum efficiency. So when does this difference actually matter? For most people, it comes down to context. If you're setting up a home network, buying an Ethernet cable is usually exactly what you need. But in professional environments, IT systems, infrastructure, large-scale networks, understanding the full range of network cables becomes essential. Choosing between copper, fiber, or other technologies can impact speed, reliability, and performance. In the end, the difference between Ethernet cable and network cable isn't about right or wrong. It's about precision. One is a general term. The other is a specific standard within that category. But behind that simple distinction lies something much bigger. A story of innovation, of evolving technology, and of a global system that connects billions of devices every second. So the next time you plug in a cable, take a moment to think about what's really happening, because that simple connection is part of a vast, invisible network, quietly powering the modern world. And whether you call it an Ethernet cable or a network cable, it's playing a small but essential role in keeping you connected to everything that matters.